session's almost over. I did say weeks to someone, they said, no, say days. I'm like, let's not get technical. Okay, I'm gonna start off with some opening remarks. It was a busy weekend. So my staff and I are closely tracking the responses in Portland, and we're closely tracking the demonstrations over the weekend, and we're in regular contact with law enforcement across the state. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Here's my takeaway. Oregonians are showing up this year to have their voices heard, and in some cases just have their signs read, and to take a full advantage of our democracy and the freedoms that this country was founded on. Our state participated in one of the largest peaceful demonstrations in American history and had one of the largest showings. Oregonians overwhelmingly heeded the call to engage lawfully and reject political violence, thereby raising their voices effectively. So I first of all want to thank Oregonians for their roles in participating in this weekend's demonstrations. I'd also like to thank local and state law enforcement who in every corner of the state kept Oregonians safe and only intervened when lines were crossed. The facts from this weekend are critically important right now here in our country. I want to share some preliminary numbers with you. In Portland alone, there were an estimated 50,000 people demonstrating during the planned events during the day on Saturday. No arrests were made at those events. Later that night, at an entirely separate event, there were 3 arrests outside of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement building in Portland, which I want to be clear and mention is not a detention center of any kind. The event there was declared a riot at 6:30 p.m. and lasted a short period of time. It's really important to emphasize here that an estimated 50,000 people in Portland peacefully marched. And separately, there were 3 arrests made later on Saturday evening. Between Wednesday of last week and today, where there were increased activity in Portland concentrated around the ICE building, there were a total of 20 arrests, and thus far 17 individuals will face prosecution. These numbers are important because they tell a story about how we can move our state and our country forward with lawful, civil discourse and participation. Here are some other numbers for Saturday. In Eugene, 6,000 people demonstrated. Salem, 4,000. Between 1,000 and 2,000 in Bend, and in Medford, between 3,500 and 4,000 people. Statewide, that's approximately 66,000 Oregonians at the high end. And only 3 arrests on Saturday night in Portland related to a isolated event at the ICE building. We just have to remember what happened on Saturday and the small instance at the ICE facility and how that was handled. So I want to move on to also another event from the weekend, and that's the tragedy in Minnesota on Saturday. This targeted political attack that happened is so incredibly troubling and really is a call to action for all of us to recommit ourselves to peaceful discourse and to reject violence. We are all better than this. I've been in contact with Governor Walz and First Lady Walz about the incident in Minnesota. I don't think we can understate the way these murders and gun attacks on the 2 other individuals who are recovering is truly chilling for our country, not only for the state of Minnesota, but the entire country. Electeds across the country serve every single day to serve their communities, and this is so unacceptable. I can't even believe we have to say that. For that to have happened in Minnesota, that could happen anywhere in the country when that kind of thing happens, and we have to be vigilant and say no to that. That's not who we are as Americans, and it's incredibly dangerous, and we just have to keep pushing back. And I'm glad for the citizens of Minnesota they've caught the individual, because I know it's been a very harrowing weekend for everyone in the state. More going on here in Oregon. I'm going to give an update on the fire in Rowena in Wasco County. Last Wednesday, I declared a conflagration order for the Rowena fire in Wasco County. To remind everyone, the Conflagration Act orders happen to call up all available resources to respond to fires to protect lives and property. That was my first conflagration order of the year. The Rowena fire has burned over 3,500 acres, destroyed 56 residential structures, and 91 additional structures, including sheds, barns, and shops. Those 56 homes, my understanding is that's more than all of last year. Certainly a huge impact for the residents of Rowena and Roscoe County, and just a real harbinger that we have a difficult fire season ahead of us. As of today, level 1, 2, and 3 evacuations remain in effect under the Wasco County Sheriff's Office direction. The Red Cross shelter remains open at the Dalles Middle School. Over 500 firefighters were deployed to fight against these wind-driven flames. Incident management teams from the State Fire Marshal and the Department of Forestry, alongside local fire departments, worked together to protect communities, homes, critical infrastructure, and natural resources. With the threat to structures diminishing, the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Green Team has demobilized as of this morning. The Oregon Department of Forestry work does continue. There are 2 State Fire Marshal task forces still on the scene and 3 incident command personnel who will remain for ongoing structural mitigation. We're really fortunate that we've been able to get this under control, but there's still much work to be done as well, and people are not back in their homes. This is difficult work. As you know, when there's intense heat and smoke, the fire season has only begun. I want to thank our firefighters who fought and are fighting in Rowena. I greatly admire and appreciate their courage and sense of duty, and it does not go unnoticed. As their governor, I want to continue to support them. As we go into the hot and dry summer ahead of us, I urge all Oregonians to be fire conscious, to follow all the directives from their fire departments, because fire season is here. It's early, it's aggressive. People should all have those plans in place, particularly if they're in certain parts of the state. But we should all be ready. We should know the challenges and dangers, and we should do everything we can to prevent fires from starting in our homes or on our property. Which is a good segue to wildfire funding. I have full faith in the state's firefighting agencies and their ability to protect Oregonians and the things that we all hold dear. But without predictable funding, their ability to respond to this wildfire season will be undermined. We cannot rely on our federal partners to fill the gaps. We need more helicopters. We need to maintain our fire engines. We need more wildland firefighters. We need readiness resources to be able to mobilize quickly. The proactive, effective response we're seeing in Rowena right now is what is in jeopardy for other fires in the future if lawmakers do not act this session. We have only just weeks left in this session, days, depending on who you're talking to. Without an immediate path for an ongoing funding mechanism, I urge the legislature to identify as much one-time funding as they can for wildfire suppression and mitigation to help keep our communities safe. And I think I will end with one of the solutions I'm strongly advocating for. I am strongly advocating for at least one solution right now. There are others on the table, but this one I think people need to get done. And that's to use the funding from the interest of the rainy day fund to fund mitigation and readiness. Not just suppression, but helping our communities be ready to prepare the landscape, prepare their communities in the threat of wildfire. If they take that interest from the rainy day fund, we estimate under the current corpus of the rainy day fund, what we have in it now, that would be $161 million in the 25-27 biennium that we can dedicate to mitigation and readiness. I see no reason why they can't get that at least done this session. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, before I get started, I'm giving you the rules here. I'll call on you for in person, we'll switch off with virtual. And Uncle will give you that silly mic so that you can talk into it so virtual folks can hear you. Go ahead, wait for Uncle.
The two across the table. What about the ones that we've texted you? Are those already included? Or you will, if you can just straight up ask your question. Okay. That works. Yeah.
Governor Kotek, thank you. Bryce Hill with OPB. I'd
Hey
just
there.
like to hear your reaction to the housing budget bill that's moving through the legislature so far.
Well, thank you for the question. I am reviewing all the budgets that are moving. While we've been engaged with our budget writers to give them as much information as possible, I am still reviewing all those agency budgets that are moving, the ones with a lot of general fund, like the housing budget and some of the education budgets. I wish we were in a different funding environment, because I think we need to be doing a lot more. I feel good about the fact that the legislature has focused on remaining and staying committed to what we have said around shelter and rehousing. And frankly, we just need to be doing more on the housing side. And so that's what I'm looking for, is the rest of the budget to finish up.
And I have a question, remote from KMTR. With the increase in political tensions across the nation, including political violence, and the president instructing ICE to specifically target Democrat-run cities for deportation raids, how are you planning to respond should Oregon communities be targeted?
Well, what I'm seeing across Oregon is a real understanding that our immigrant communities are important for who we are as a state. And I've stated multiple times, we will follow the law here in the state of Oregon about what it means of the role of local law enforcement when it comes to immigration enforcement. I don't take kindly to the fact that the federal administration is picking on particular cities. The focus should be on folks who potentially, given their records, could be threats to communities. That's not what we're hearing from the Trump administration. They're talking about wholesale immigration enforcement without regard to who those people are and how they contribute to their communities and whether or not they have any criminal background or not. I would urge the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security to focus on folks who are actually a danger to communities. And here in Oregon, I think we understand that the immigrant communities here contribute, have the right to live safely, and that economically we're all better off when folks can just go about their daily lives.
Go ahead, Alice.
To that effect, if you've had any discussions with people in the federal administration or at DHS about the potential for ICE to come, Portland Mayor Keith Wilson had said, National Guard, in response to some of these protests against ICE. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson said, no National Guard. Now we're seeing Trump telling ICE to target 3 big Democratic cities for raids. That's LA, Chicago, and New York. I guess, can you get into any specificity about what you have or have not said in conversation with these higher-ups with the National Guard? What would you do if your authority is usurped in that scenario?
Well, I don't think it would come as any surprise to anyone that I take situations one day at a time based on the evidence we have. Here's what I'm seeing in Oregon right now. We had a lot of people demonstrating peacefully and lawfully over the weekend. And we had 3 arrests on Saturday night when 50,000 people were in the streets in Portland during the day. We take, and the mayor and I are on the same page here. Mayor Wilson and I truly believe, and other folks in the Portland area are also on the same page, that when there is criminal activity, no matter who it's directed towards, it needs to be dealt with expediently and clearly. And we're doing that around the ICE building in Portland. The Oregon State Police has been involved, Portland Police Bureau. We all take that criminal activity very seriously. And the message that I believe that sends to the Trump administration is, we know how to keep our community safe here. We believe in addressing criminal activity. We are not going to let anything get out of hand here. We don't need anybody's help. We're doing just fine. I want to also commend that we need to continue to have strong partnerships with our federal agencies. Communication's important. We're over-communicating. We're making sure everybody knows who's got what role. We're just going to do our job, and we're going to make sure we take care of our own issues here in Oregon. We do not need any external forces coming into our state.
I have a question, Nick Budnick with the Lund Report. Governor Kotek, do you plan to comply with the federal request for Medicaid enrollee personal data? And do you know if Healthier Oregon enrollees would be included in that requested data?
I can't answer that one today. We're reviewing the order around patient privacy. What's really important for us is to understand what are we required to share, and also I think it's very important to the degree that we can, that we do not share personal information. Always comfortable with aggregated information, but when we start sharing personal medical information that could be misused, that's a challenge for me. So we're looking at the order, trying to figure out what it is we are required to do, and I don't have a specific answer today, but making sure we protect people's personally identifiable information is really important to me.
Yes.
Thanks, Governor. Not surprised that I'm looking for more details on wildfire. You mentioned the need for predictable funding, and then I think I heard you say you want lawmakers to find as much one-time funding as they can.
Yeah.
I guess a two-parter. Are you going to be satisfied if it's only one-time funding? I mean, we got one-time funding in 2021, and here they are today asking for more money. And then are you looking for the rainy day interest on a one-time basis or as an ongoing set-aside of that interest?
Well, I'll be honest, I wish we were at a different spot at this point in session, where we would have identified new ongoing sources of funding, but I'm not gonna wait for the perfect, we need the good right now. And the good is, what are the dollars we can dedicate and identify for the upcoming biennium? So that's the interest on the rainy day fund. I'm hoping for some set-aside money for suppression from the budget co-chairs. And so I'm going to take what I can get, and then we're going to keep having the conversation. I was just having a conversation this afternoon. I did a signing with some folks from the Cattlemen's Association. They have the same idea, right? It's like, this isn't the final solution to this problem, but we need to have dollars on the ground dedicated for the biennium so we know what we have. That includes our rangeland protective associations, getting them a little bit of money. Let's do what we can this biennium and then keep working on a long-term funding stream. I wish we had one identified. We're not there this session. I'm not gonna cry about it, but I want more money for the biennium so we can have these things addressed, even if it's one time.
The rainy day, was that a one-time idea or a ongoing?
Well, I think we could go on going for the rainy day fund, the interest, but remember, that can fluctuate over time depending, right now, we don't have any plans to tap the rainy day fund, but that interest number obviously would change if we did. So I don't think that's a great long-term solution, but I think it's a good one for the next meeting.
I have a question from Noticias Northwest. Governor, is the Oregon Department of Education directing funds or any resources to help students cope with the deportation of their parents near schools?
I think any kind of fear that students are feeling right now about their safety as well as their parents' safety is real, and we're hearing from educators that people are concerned. So we're focusing right now on education to the folks in the school districts. What kind of information can we provide for families? Here's the situation if something does happen. Just trying to provide as much information as possible. I'm not aware of any particular resources being spent. I think what we're doing right now is just making sure all of our schools know what their students and families need to know if something does happen. But it's a tough time for our families. We need students to be in school, and when they feel unsafe, kids don't show up. So we're trying to send the message, we'll keep you safe, here's what you need to know, and please come to school. Well, and actually, the school year has wrapped up too, is wrapping up in many places too. So we hope children will come to the summer programs, because that's really important.
Hi, Governor. Daisy with KGW. Given the recent detention of vineyard manager Moises Soleto, part of a broader uptick in ICE actions in agriculture communities, what is your response on the behalf of Oregon's wine industry and immigration workers?
Well, we have several industries here in the state that are highly dependent on a workforce that is being targeted right now, whether it's our vineyards or other agricultural spots. What I would say is Oregon is not immune. We are seeing this around the country. I am heartened by what I am seeing from the Trump administration, some of the news, that because of the uproar about what it's meaning for certain workers, whether it's in the hospitality industry or the ag industry, they might be withdrawing some of the impact on trying to go after certain workers. I hope that's the case. If we really want our economies to keep moving forward, that workforce needs to be there. So I'm hoping that it will stay to a minimum. And I don't know anything about that particular case, but we will definitely monitor if we see more of this ICE action happening across the state.
I have a question, Lillian Monjo Hughes from the Oregonian. The LFO budget recommends an 80% cut to the rent assistance and eviction prevention funding requested by OHCS. This recommendation is also below your proposed budget. Advocates are calling for your original budget for OHCS to be protected. What is your message for the legislature as they consider this proposed cut, and how does this reduction in funds to prevent homelessness sit with your overall effort to reduce homelessness?
Well, we know the most cost-effective way to continue to address the fact that we have a lot of individuals experiencing homelessness is to keep them from experiencing homelessness in the first place. So those prevention dollars have been very effective in this biennium to keep people housed before they lose everything. I wish we were seeing bigger numbers out of the legislature here. I will be fighting up until the end of session to add additional dollars back into some of these budgets. The agency budgets are on the move. There's still an end of session bill. I'm trying to articulate why it would be helpful to have additional resources. I would argue we need another $100 million in my housing and homelessness package, and one of those is for eviction prevention.
Hi, Governor. Mia with the Oregon Capitol Chronicle. So President Trump recently said he plans to start winding down FEMA funding as at the end of the hurricane season, which I believe lasts until November. So first, have you heard back from your request to declare disaster for the spring floods in southern Oregon? And is what Trump said on your radar, and what would that mean to not just those communities, but the rural communities that are experiencing all this damage from natural disasters?
We have not heard back from the White House about the declaration request. So answer number one. I did have the ability to speak with a bunch of other Democratic governors recently about FEMA, and here's the message I would send. We all understand that FEMA, as a federal program, could probably use some reform. If you're a governor and you're in a state with a disaster, you know things could probably work a little bit more speedily, and you would like to see some change. That is not the same thing as saying we're going to pull back and not bring any resources into your state. Every governor across this country is saying we do not have state resources to adequately lead our states through recovery after a disaster without FEMA. So it is concerning to me that what we're seeing around the country, not just from our requests, we're seeing delays. We're not seeing immediate responses to our requests. We're hearing concerns about FEMA money actually flowing to the states. That will be disastrous for any state that is experiencing a disaster. So if we look at the situation in Rowena right now, in addition to how we fight wildfire and prepare our communities, we do need to have a conversation here in Oregon about how we have immediate funds to help communities who've just experienced a disaster. Not to go into too much detail, but after the 2020 wildfires, when I was speaker, in 21, I put together a joint bipartisan group to say we need to get some money out the door to help our communities. And we had some extra dollars at that point because of where our revenue forecast was. We also had ARPA money connected to COVID. We were able to move a lot of money out into those communities early on to help them recover. And then we got delayed because FEMA takes a while, and it's taken a while to get those dollars out the door. We don't have those kind of dollars right now. So right now, you saw the flooding in Burns. We need to put some money, hopefully from the state side, into those communities to say, this isn't going to cover your complete expense, but here's some money now until we hear from FEMA. I think the situation in Rowena is very similar. I don't have an answer for that right now. We do not have those kind of funds to help a community in the immediate recovery right after disaster. We need the federal government to step up. I would hope that in the interest of reform that we're hearing from the Trump administration, we're going to see actual reform, but not any pulling back from the dollars that come to our states. We need those dollars, and we can't do it without the federal government.
I have a question here from Newswatch 12. Governor, you've said you're frustrated with the lack of progress on wildfire funding. Do you believe Senator Golden's proposal to redirect a portion of the kicker is the only viable path forward, even if it means a tough bipartisan vote and potential backlash from taxpayers?
I don't think legislative leaders have the votes to take a portion of the kicker this session. I think we have to focus on other things.
Hi, Governor. So thousands of people have submitted public testimony on the transportation package, and most people are concerned about the financial burden from the different price increases. And we've also seen a proposal from some former lawmakers about a potential referendum to send those tax hikes to the ballot. I'm just
So thank you for the question. So the transportation package that is in final consideration and that they're taking testimony on, I think is a very clear approach to meet the basic needs of our transportation system. It is not going to buy everything we need, but it's going to provide maintenance. It's going to provide commitments on some projects that have to get done and provide stability so we can take care of our roads and take care of our bridges. And I think the idea that people are paying for the things they're using, I think, is embedded in that package. The political action committee that was formed to potentially refer it, that is, how do I say this? It's not unusual that people will be playing political games with the transportation package. Of course, I don't think any of us want to fight this at the ballot next year, but right now I'm focused on making sure they can get the transportation package done. And then, people have the freedom to do what they need to do. But the reality is, I think we all agree, no matter what you drive or where you live, we need to make sure our roads actually work for people. And that package will get the job done.
Okay, one more question.
One more virtual question here. Lynn Terry from the Lund Report. Governor Kotek, Oregon could lose $1 billion in federal funding under the Republican funding bill. It's not happened, but there's wide agreement that Oregon will face cuts. Where do you see possible cuts being made, and might healthier Oregon be affected?
Well, right now we're focused on getting the 2-year budget done, as we've been talking about, and with the resources we have in the state. If that piece of legislation goes through Congress that guts Medicaid, guts the SNAP program, goes after some really core programs for the country, every state in the nation is going to have to make some hard choices. Here, I don't know what those choices will be. I think we will all have to sit down in a bipartisan fashion, if that bill passes, and really look at what we can do differently to meet people's needs. I will also say the reality is, no matter what we do on the state side, we will not have the dollars to make up for those gaps. People will lose services.
Well, it's 2:30. You said
That's
we
a
have
really good question, Alex.
Sure.
Time for one more, are we?
No, we're closing at 3:30.
One more
Sorry,
question.
everybody.
Go.
Okay, well, I guess for the sake of time then, does any of the sort of backing away from the kicker have to do with the fact that no Republican has taken an unexcused absence yet, and they could take their last 9 days and walk out?
I think where it comes down to the kicker vote is, it's a difficult vote, particularly for Republicans. I wish we'd had more time to actually develop this conversation in a way that we could have had some success. Because I think at the end of the day, a very small portion of that kicker money for our very, very high income earners could be set aside to help us all fight fire. We didn't get a chance to have that conversation. I think that is separate from whatever rumors are out there about people thinking about not showing up for work. I think that's a separate conversation.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Alex, what?
Are you worried about it?
I think people should show up for work.
Thank you.
I am. I think they should. So.
Thanks for taking the last.
Thanks, everybody.